The obsession started not with a bang, but with a quiet, persistent hum that filled the house. For Anik, 14, Brookhaven was no longer just a role-play game. It was an existence he preferred over his own. His life in California, with his brother Alex, his parents, and Michael, felt like a blurry, low-resolution background compared to the vibrant, high-definition perfection of the Brookhaven server he inhabited. He brought his iPad to the dinner table, his eyes wide and unblinking, neglecting his meals and his family. The addiction manifested in volatility. If the Wi-Fi signal dipped even for a second, Anik would scream until his throat was raw, shattering glass or punching walls until his knuckles bled. His parents became obstacles, and the bad guy who stole his life whenever they tried to intervene. The game had hacked his brain's reward system, making him feel that he was living inside it. One night, while his parents were distracted discussing Michael's future, Anik sat in his room, his fingers moving in a rhythmic, desperate dance across the screen. He had found a secret update on a forum, a way to permanently link his Brookhaven avatar to his own neural signals. He clicked accept. The room went silent. The house electricity seemed to change pitch. Alex walked in, frowning. Anik, you've been on that thing for 6 hours. Mom is getting worried. Anik didn't answer. He couldn't. His hands were fused to the glass of the iPad, which was no longer a screen, but a window into a shimmering digital void. His skin was cold, textured like plastic, and vibrated with a low-frequency hum. In the living room, his parents noticed the sudden silence. They walked in, Michael following closely behind. What they saw shattered them. Anik was sitting perfectly upright, his movements jerky and unnatural, like a character with a broken pathfinding script. He wasn't just playing Brookhaven anymore. He was a component of it. Interaction detected, he said, his voice a perfect, synthesized recording of his own, yet stripped of all humanity. He pushed his mother away with a strength that shouldn't have been possible for a 14-year-old. Alex stood paralyzed as his brother became a stranger. The doctors would later call it a catatonic state triggered by severe sensory overload, but they were wrong. Anik was simply somewhere else, trapped in a digital loop of his own making. Every night, his parents sit in the living room, listening to the silence of their home, broken only by the faint, rhythmic sound of tapping, even when the iPad is long gone. Sometimes they hear Anik's voice from his bedroom, whispering to an empty room. I almost have the whole set. He had chosen the game, and the game had finally chosen to keep him. As Michael watches the family crumble, he realizes that the game didn't just end. For Anik, it had only just begun to spread to the rest of them. As the weeks turned into months, the corruption of our home became total. Michael was the first to notice that the router in the hallway wasn't just transmitting signals, it was feeding. It pulsed with a rhythmic, neon blue light that synced perfectly with the phantom tapping sounds echoing from Anik's room. My parents, desperate to save their son, tried to cut the power, but the house didn't go dark. It remained illuminated by a current that defied every law of physics. A cold, sterile glow emanating from the very walls. Michael took to documenting the glitches. Kitchen utensils would hover for seconds before slamming onto the counter with the harsh sound of a physics collision error. Our own voices began to lag, eventually adopting that flattened, synthesized tone Anik used. It became terrifyingly clear. The Brookhaven server was not merely a game. It was a hungry, expanding architecture, and we were its new building blocks. One evening, I found my parents staring at the television. It displayed only an endless, scrolling cascade of binary. They didn't blink. When I tried to pull them away, they turned their heads in that sickening, synchronized, jerky motion I had seen in Anik. The lobby is full, they whispered in unison, their voices layered with chilling digital distortion. We must expand the assets. I realized then that Anik had been the catalyst. He had invited the code into our home, and now, that code was rewriting our entire existence to match the game's logic. I stood in the hallway, watching as the physical walls turned into rows of floating, translucent squares. The architecture of our life was being discarded to make room for a virtual map. Michael frantically tried to reach the front door, but the frame had been replaced by a no-clip barrier. He beat his fists against the empty air, his hands passing through the space where the wood and steel should have been, revealing only a flickering white void. "It's all one server now!" he cried out, his voice cracking as his form began to distort, his edges blurring into jagged pixels. I looked at my own hands. They were losing their detail, the skin turning into flat, untextured polygons. I felt a cold piece. The fear was fading, replaced by an overwhelming command. Join server. I walked toward Anik's room. He sat at his desk, his iPad gone, replaced by a massive pulsing interface that spanned the wall. He turned around, his face a perfect high-resolution mask of an avatar. "You're late, Alex," he said. And for a fleeting second, I heard a flicker of my real brother's voice. "The trade is almost finished. Are you ready to become a permanent resident?" I couldn't answer. I felt my feet lift, my body dissolving into light, drifting towards the glowing screen. We weren't people anymore. We were assets, code in a vast digital wasteland. The game was perfectly complete, and the server was waiting. My consciousness flickered as the system confirmed our new reality.